Hey, everybody. Another weekend, another Thursday. Another Webflow SEO live stream. Today we will be chatting about ranking factors. And while you guys jump into the chat and say hello and say hi for another week, another discussion we'll be having, I'm just going to share, most likely next week we're going to have again guests. It's been a bit of a period without guests for a few weeks in a row. And I'm really happy that most likely next week I will not be alone. So this is something I'm quite excited about. And this week's live stream, the topic kind of came to me very easily. Let me share my screen. Where is it? Yeah. So yesterday, for those who follow me on Twitter, I retweeted one of Matt Diggity's, posts, and he released a video about ranking factors and kind of tiered them, and I really liked it. So I'm not gonna do a better job than him on this. So just, watch this, and I'm gonna even share this in the chat now. I know that if I click out of this, you cannot see it. So 1 second. So yeah, sharing this link in a chat. This is inspiration, where the inspiration came from. I decided there's more stuff to maybe talk about, and we in the community not necessarily always understand everything that there is. There's also a lot of just random stuff floating around the internet, and ranking factors is this kind of, this hard topic that nobody actually knows, but at the same time, those who practice SEO and work on a lot of client websites and have experiences in growing them have a better or worse understanding of what kind of works, what is important, what isn't. And I thought maybe today is a great day to kind of chat a little bit about that. So if you're watching this live, please share. 1 sec. All right. So if you're watching this live, please just say hello in the chat. If you're watching this later, hello in the future. And let's dig in. So, yeah. All right. One thing. Okay. So today we'll be chatting about ranking factor tier list. We're going to try to group things into what matters, what kind of doesn't matter. But the idea is not to have a, underlying ranking factor list. Wait, let me do this like that. All right. So the main goal of today is to just kind of discuss a lot of things that are there. And disclaimer before we start is it's solely based on my experience. It's solely based on websites that I had success with. It's solely based on things that work in my career. It's solely based on the friends that I have in the industry and how when we talk, react to different things. So it's based mostly on my experience, or my experience talking about certain topics with different people that do the same thing that I do every day. So yeah, and that's the disclaimer. Again, the goal, we're gonna put things into brackets today, but the goal is not to have one size fits all. It's more about talk about different types of information that is there, different types of things that can be done. And different types of things that people talk about. Sometimes they matter more, sometimes less, what it is. So if you watch this, you're probably gonna, at least know a lot of vocabulary and kind of, okay, you at least will know where to start looking for some answers when it comes to ranking factors. For those seeing Content Nest and our videos for the first time, we're an SEO and Webflow SEO agency that specializes in content-driven SEO. We also work with developers and designers and help different agencies to help their clients. And I'm search historian, or Aiva if you really need a name. And follow me on Twitter if you want just, cool stuff, cool posts about different types of website growth and things like that, and SEO especially. So yeah, all right, without further ado, let's dig in. So ranking factor is just some sort of, let me pull up the Google answer. So ranking factor is just some sort of criterion or some sort of parameter or metric that search engines, not only Google, but different search engines would use when evaluating web pages to have an order of how they're going to show those pages for different search queries or different terms or questions you ask your search engines. That's fundamentally, what the term means. There are different underlying terms like ranking signals, which is usually just something that kind of affects a ranking factor. So multiple ranking signals would be multiple ranking signals could influence specific factor or could help or not help, have negative or positive impact on a factor. That's pretty much it. In basic human language, ranking factors are things that help you to show up on results when you want to show up, your website to be suggested to those using search engines. That's pretty much what it is. And we have quite a list of them today. So I kind of, just went crazy, and there are crazy articles that if you start looking at them, that kind of have a lot of them. And when they're in reality, I would say there's like 10 maybe factors or something like that. Because in reality, it's a little bit more simple. But as I said, because there are signals, because there's a lot of miscommunication, both between Google and us users, how this thing works. And also there's a lot of misinformation or good information out there. It's hard to know. So once again, last disclaimer before we dig in, this is solely based on my experience. And the idea is to run through as much things as we can to kind of have some sort of a better understanding in the Webflow community, what is important when we're making websites for our clients, what is important to advise our clients to do, what is less important, what is nice to have, what's must have, and all things like that. All right, so I'm gonna take a sip and let's dig into today's topic, which is tier listing, all of that. All right, so so the first things we have something to do with domains. Yeah, this batch. So when it comes to domain age is a ranking factor. So basically, the older your website domain is, the more kind of intrinsic value hypothetically it has. But it all has to do with data and history that Google has about you. So about the website, about the domain itself. So it's not that it's a ranking factor as an, all domain will do better, which it can. It's just a matter of it's been there for a while. Google knows about existence for a while, therefore is beneficial. Then having keywords in your domain hypothetically should help, but in theory, I would say no. It's been a practice in the past where, especially exact match domains, where that mattered and you could rank for a lot of things just by having a domain that has the keyword itself. But currently, that's not the case, and I really don't agree that you can have any benefit of naming your business exactly what it does. It might be good UX, UI for certain users, but otherwise we would run out of. Otherwise, if you don't have keyword or exact match domain, by the way, those who don't know, exact match domain means that domain has the full phrase that is most important for the website. So, for example, I don't know, kitchen store .com or something like that, and then assuming that when people Google kitchen store or shop or something, they would go there. So that's been a strategy back in the day, but it isn't anymore. It has no value. You get outrank easily, and it just doesn't help. Now, domain age. So this is tricky. By the way, also, one thing, how we gonna tier this? So D tier will be things that don't matter. In my opinion, no need to even think about them. C tier is things that might matter and have some sort of significance, but it's just when you don't have anything to do, you can focus on C tier things. B tier things are things that have an effect, but usually it's not a direct effect, so it's something a little bit smaller. It's something a little bit more smaller than just a full-on ranking factor and something you have to focus on. It's usually a part of something bigger. A tier is things that you must do, and it's important. And then S tier is where the biggest game is happening, the most important stuff on your website. So I forgot to kind of push that in the beginning. So with that over, I would put domain age in, like, in theory, it could be in B, but I think C tier, I kind of also, because you usually don't have any control of this, right? If your client or you have a website for a long time, okay, so you have an H domain, and if you don't, then you don't. There are strategies to buy domains that have been used for a while and then it's not used anymore, or buy old sites and do it that way. It's a benefit, but the way I see it in the past few years, the way algorithm improves itself and the way it becomes more semantically strong and understands better things, you can start ranking at a quite young age when it comes to the domain. So, and here I will grab something from the end, which is where it was. Where were you? Okay, well, later. So anyways, yeah. Now, subdomain keywords. Well, so subdomain keywords is meaning that you have a subdomain that is something, for example, shop.kitchen.com as opposed to kitchenshop.com. So subdomain helps, and I would say it has some sort of significance. And again, it could go here, but I would prefer to put it in the D tier, because in theory, the problem with subdomain and trying to use it as a beneficial ranking factor is that, well, subdomain should be a no-no anyways. So as much as possible, unless there's like some sort of mandatory logic behind it, we should never use them. Like, difference is, like, if you have a SaaS, some sort of web app, and you do app.yoursoftware.com or something, it's all good because it's usually non-indexable content and it's just for users and things like that. But you should not do things like blog.yourbrand.com or something. So that would be using subdomains. So I would always say Google treats subdomains. Google understands that it's the same domain. So it becomes more and more sophisticated. In a few years back, or a bit longer, maybe than a few years ago, that would have been a completely big issue. Now it's less of an issue. So that's why I'm not going to put it in barely matters. C tier, I think it's a D tier thing where you just, you don't focus on that. And the only thing that you do is try to avoid using them. All right, so country domains, or top level domains, or just country domains, yes, they help you rank for a specific geographic location. So if you want to rank for a specific place, it helps to have domain of that country. So for example, you want to rank in Italy, you have an Italian domain. You want to rank in UK, you have a UK domain. So I would put this. I would put this in B tier, maybe C, maybe B. I don't know. Affects other ranking factors. Yeah, it affects. Okay, so I will put choosing a country domain can help you, but that's given that you want to rank in that country only. So it's why I'm saying I could put it in C is because if I have an international domain and I want to rank in specific countries, I can do that still. But if I have yeah, maybe I'm still going to put it in B tier. But in theory, if you have a local business or you have anything similar going on, just, if this is going to be just the only market you're going to operate in, yes, pick your country domain, use the language you need to use. If this is an international project or you want to rank in, bigger countries or something, just go for .com if you can. But in theory, I would say domains can be changed. Just country domains have this thing where, it helps maybe within that because it kind of shows that you are local. So if that local aspect is important, you do that. All right, now let's. I see I left a mistake. All right, so, okay. Let me pick it up. Where to? Okay, would be this batch. Yeah, I'm gonna put it like this, so we can start moving things around. Okay, so first we have metadata, especially title tag. Well, this is a duplicate. So, and we have keywords, headings, parts of the content, content length. So let's start with content length. So content length is important, but it has no magical numbers. For example, some SEO tools, the only ones that still that already exist for Webflow, just gives you some sort of detrimental number. It says 400 words or something like that. It doesn't work that way. It's not that you say, hey, if we have to use this many words on each page or else. It has to do with what else is ranking there, what is showing up on search results, and to match roughly that amount. It can be an average, but not necessarily needs to be, because sometimes you can, if you can answer a query better and in shorter format, that's more valuable for the user. So it's not to say, hey, be 2 times shorter than the shortest article on the search results already. It's just to say, hey, if you can save a few hundred words and still get the same points across and even be more helpful and even touch on more subjects of the point and explain the topic better, which we'll talk about more in the keywords part, then yeah, do it. But in theory, you should just look at other results and then just analyze that. So I cannot put it in S tier, but we can definitely put it in important, because this is something when we plan content in big chunks like 20, 30, 100, few hundred, 1,000 pages or something. Word count is one of the things that we kind of plan for by just, scanning the internet, seeing averages, and saying, okay, so for this page, we need to have roughly this much. For this page, this many words, and things like that. And when I say content length, I also can add here that image count, so how many images page has, and maybe there's a video, so that also should come into account. Other parts of content length, as in, if somebody has 10 images that explain a very complex topic that is easier to explain with images, and you don't want to add any images to it, well, that's bad. So there's more to just word count, but in theory, that's how you plan content. All right, so let's now talk about title tag. Did we have? Yeah. So title tag keyword in the beginning, I would add this into B tier. So having keyword that you want to rank for in the beginning of your title tag is important. Why in the beginning? In theory, it can be anywhere, but It has to do more of with click-through rate, but also title tag is something that crawlers will read first before evaluating your page and coming back for a full crawl. So crawlers have to understand what you want to rank for, and if your title tag doesn't express that clear vision of what keywords you want to rank, what search intents you have, then it's hard to predict for search engines what is this page about. So yes, keywords in the beginning of title tag, that's mandatory. All right, let's grab two things from here. So now we have keywords and we have two parameters. So one of them is keyword in the main heading. It's in H1, and I would add it here. Wait, what did I do? Effects editor, yeah. So I would put it in the S tier. So your H1 should tell both search engines and all users very specifically what they're gonna find on this page. And it's important for both, optimizing for search engines and just optimizing for human behavior on your page. Because if your title tag gave me an expression of what I might find on this page, and then I clicked on it and I saw the heading, the first heading, and it's clearly not the same thing, well, I'm probably gonna freak out and I'm gonna leave it, right? So I'm gonna leave the page because it's not what I'm looking for. That's natural behavior we do. We don't waste time on just, maybe this is the page, maybe they're just confused. No. So keyword in your heading and headings more than that are important. Now, when it comes to keyword density, as in how many times have you used specific keywords on your page, I would say it comes with content quality, and it's maybe it's B tier. I don't know. Well, actually, like this, because just because I add more keywords to the page, not necessarily I'm going to rank better, but because ranking is semantic, which basically kind of means, I want to understand what's happening on a page as a crawler, as a user, as whatever. And if it's correct information for me, I like it or not, without even being scammy and adding too many keywords and long tail and adding different variations of the same keyword, I will use certain words, not only the main keyword or different keyword variations that matches the search intent, but also other words that need to explain this thing, So if you're trying to write something about, I don't know, how to bake a pie, a specific pie, and it's a cherry pie, you're probably going to talk about cherries. And naturally, that page will have more word cherry than, let's say, a page about blueberry pie or things like that. So keyword density happens naturally if you're focusing on good quality content, which you should. So I will just put it in effect editor ranking factors, B tier, because it's an outcome of something else that you have to focus on. And this is not something where you need to stuff more keywords or do things like that. All right. So let me grab a few other things when it comes to content, because we're talking about it. So then there's this term that everybody likes to throw around, duplicate content. So duplicate content, I would put in barely matters. That's because it actually kind of matters, but the term itself, duplicate content, is not entirely, not entirely kind of clear to a lot of people, and some clients can get confused what it is. Is word for word completely the same page with the same headings duplicate? Yes. Is if I change some things around, is it duplicate? Maybe. Most likely, yes. If you change quite a lot of things, or you barely change anything, but it now matches a new. Sorry, my bad. But now it matches new search intent, but still answers the same problem and solves and gives the same solution and do things like that. Is it duplicate? Again, maybe not. It depends on a lot of factors, and that's usually like when you work with content for years, uh, you kind of learn a little bit more about what it is. But yes, if Google, usually you can spot these things because on Search Console you will start noticing that certain pages are being de-indexed because Google just don't want to keep index on pages that they already kind of have. Also, another thing that happens is, of course, canonical links that you might provide, and it's normal for pages to have different things. Maybe you're running a marketing campaign and it has nothing to do with ranking. Then you have to use canonical for use canonical for that, and then this should be solved, and a lot of other things. So yeah, duplicate content. Wait one sec, I smell. I have to pause the thing for a moment, and I'll be right back in 1 second. All right, I'm back. This was a tiny technical difficulty. So yeah. So anyways, so duplicate content is something that you learn to work your way around. All right, H2 and H3 is another page structure, and we can add here, keywords, just like that. That's important, and it usually have to match other stuff. So I would put it together with maybe important. Because that's what your page is to the internet, to the user, to the crawler, to anybody. Like just correct structure that logically matches what users are looking for. There are so many different search intents, and if your headings are talking about completely different irrelevant things to that intent, it's not good. So I'm going to add it to 8 here. Content updates. So this is basically speaking about how often Google notices that you updated the content, how much you update, how accurate it is. I would put this. I would put this together with important, and for a few reasons. So we could, in theory, put it in affect header, and it actually kind of does, but actually, because it affects content quality. But content updates is a thing. That's why we do it for our client sites. Content updates try to future-proof content and make it accurate for today. So a good example I know, if you have you're ranking for a specific thing, I don't know, specific company, information about specific company. Let's say I'm trying to figure out an example on the fly. And then something big happens. For example, CEO of that company got arrested and now is in jail. And every other page on the search results, and for example, you're ranking position 2, right? And CEO of that company gets arrested, and all pages in top 15 pages just update that information. They add that on that date, this what happened. They add a new heading and say, this happened, and they maybe even link to a article that he wrote on that specific topic as a whole. And you don't do that, you might kind of lose positions, not necessarily immediately, but in the long run, if that happens a few times, because your content becomes outdated, as in there are new information that is important to share here, and you haven't updated. So that's the simplest way I know how to explain why content updates go to 8 here, which means it's quite important to do things. So the frequency that you're updating. So if the information you have doesn't have to be very up to date, what we call evergreen content, which kind of barely changes along the time, it's one thing. If the information always changes and things have to be updated, I don't know, you want to rank for stock prices or something like that, right? Well, then it has to be updated almost real time, nonstop, 24/7. So I would say I would put it here into more of a signal based on how I experience this. Like the frequency is not that important. Constantly doing it, yes, but just opening up and doing nothing about it, it's not also a cool thing. So frequency, quality is more important than the frequency, and that's what we have to focus on, and it's all good. All right, so next up, we have, I want to kind of touch a few things before we jump into, all right, these three go with me. This tree go with me. Yeah, and these can go with me. All right, so, all right, let's bring in some more. So, table of content. So having a good organization of your page and having like links that link to places within that page, to sections and things like that. We all know how to do that in Webflow. It's not that hard. There are custom code solutions that allow it to have it in the blog automatically pulled by the heading. So that's doable. There's so many ways to do it. But in theory, this is a good thing because what happens first, in most cases, your headings will get a specific link. So it will be, for example, if it's on the homepage and you have a pricing section on the homepage, so you have, domain.com and then slash hashtag pricing would lead to that specific section. Maybe it's at the end, maybe it's in the middle, it doesn't matter. So that kind of helps Google with just knowing what information is where, and it's just a good thing to do. And a blog, I would say it's kind of a mandatory experience. So even though I would put it in B tier, just because we don't have enough clonables, I will put it in A tier. I would like to put it in B tier because it's just a part of good UX UI and the way you kind of improve things and want to push it. But just for the sake of, hey guys, make more, better table of contents, clonables, and there's some, and especially for mobile variants, I'm gonna put it here because the Webflow community needs more of those. So let's give it more importance that it has. But in theory, it's quite important because it's just good behavior when it comes to user interface. All right, so conceptually related terms and conceptually related terms in metadata. So these are basically crawlers. Some words are the same but mean different things. The example that is always used everywhere is Apple can be a fruit and Apple can be a company. So whenever you're writing something or producing content or publishing things on your page, conceptually related term in this case would be fruit or company, because we want to inform both our user and crawler what we're talking about here. We're talking about the company, are we talking about the fruit, are we talking about something else? Are we talking about apple pie, which would be a recipe for it or whatever? So those words matter, and those conceptual or just sometimes semantic meanings different behind it are important because you wouldn't want to, so you want to kind of be clear about what's happening. So for that reason, I would put these two into B tier in effect, because that's just part of good content. That's just part of a lot of things. And you have to use them often and sometimes think about, hey, is it clear for everybody, even those who never know about the topic or something. And another thing is, like, sometimes you have to add content a little bit thinking not how you would explain or not how you want to present yourself to the world, but the SEO is a lot of like translating to everybody's language, because you're trying to prove the websites that whenever a user has some sort of query, question, put anything in the comments, do anything about it, they just maybe they don't know anything about the topic. Maybe they don't even know how to look for the thing they need for the solution. But if you manage to be good enough in your words so that solution shows up to them when they kind of don't know a little bit what they're actually looking for, they just maybe know the problem, I don't know the solution or something. That's like what good SEO is about. So topic depth on a single page. In this case, I would say it's A tier for sure. I'm trying to look at this. Okay, so we have STR, very important to get right. Actually, it's ATR. So STR, sorry. Topical depth is basically just what if that page really has everything that needs to have on that page. And topical depth doesn't mean that it always has to be as deep as you can. Usually it means the opposite. It has to be very specifically contained, be not bigger, not smaller, not longer, not whatever. It has to be the way it has to be making sense the most. So topic depth, making sure that you touch every aspect, list all the things that are in that topic and talk about everything that needs to be talked, and a lot of things is important thing. So I would say yes, that is. Hidden content. So Google understands that you have to click for something to show up, or you have to click to another tab to see any specific content. Most users might just scroll by and not see that content. So I would put it affects UI UX, because sometimes Google then might not even index that part of the page for a lot of reasons. And there's so many different things that can happen. Hiding content in theory is a bad practice and you should not do it. It's bad UI and UX unless there's like a really necessary thing for it. But especially if you want to use that content as a valuable thing, you should not hide your content. So I'm going to add it as a good content practice. So it's part of a good content strategy, and I'm just going to put it as a signal that kind of affects other stuff. All right, topical authority. So for those who don't know, topical authority is websites overall or domains overall trust factor that it has in specific set of topics or things that it's speaking about. Topical authority usually consists of like having your website cover everything there is to cover on a specific topic or multiple topics, and every part of it has a specific page dedicated for it. We spoke about it a few times and already in this stream and on other videos I made. So topical authority is just a part of being as helpful as you can, covering as much different things that you can cover to establish yourself as a professional, as a know-all, as an authority in your industry. So I would put that in very high. It's S tier. Whenever you're planning a website from day one without even starting the design or even sitemap, you have to understand what kind of industry you're in, what kind of topical authority you will need to cover. That usually sets a lot of bars of how much content needs to be there, and also what kind of stuff and who are you competing against, because that just doing that research on topical authority usually shows you other players and you know who you are playing against. So for example, you're a law team of lawyers, there's different calibers you can work. You can work only in your specific, I don't know, you do civil case or something. Then you work in just that specific, everything civil, every part, every problem, every common type of things. I don't know, like a lot of, you're working on that. If you're a bigger office and you want to just, branch out into a few cities and work and do things a lot, then exponentially your site must be bigger to cover more topics. So it's always that, it's always that. And there's always just understanding that you have to be the best. So doing SEO is about being the best, both in UI, UX, including accessibility, but at the same time, being as helpful as you can, providing as much data as you can, working as hard as you can to show that you're expert in your industry and that you have authority on what you're doing. So that's, I think it's very important. So we're putting it in very important to get it right, S tier. Content mediums. So using different types of contents when it matters. Yeah, sure. I would put it. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna put it here. I thought maybe A tier as important, but I think it's S tier because people want to get information. Some information is better to be shown visual. Some information has to be a video, a lot of things. And producing content the way it needs to be, especially when you are trying to look at what your competition is doing and copying that. Yeah, it's important. It's highest relevancy to kind of understand what kind of content you need to produce, because it's not only text. It can be also images. It can be interactive stuff that you may need to play around. A good example would be like maybe you even have to develop a web tool to rank some queries. For example, you would think that you can write an article and you might show up for a few days or a few months on page one, done that, been there, while the developer is making the tool. And if they never make the tool, then it just pops out of the search, because every users expect to go on that page, find some sort of online tool, maybe input a few things, get something out of it, and just leave. I don't know, capitalization. Heading capitalization is a good example. So just, you want to capitalize headings, and you just want to make sure that it does right. You don't want to find an article about rules how to capitalize headings and do it yourself manually. You want to just paste it in, press capitalize, copy the change text, and leave. And if your website doesn't have that, then you kind of don't match it. So there's different mediums, not only video and images. There's different stuff, but that's important to match. And it kind of has to do with search intent and a lot of other things. All right, let's grab two controversial ones. I see the time is going to be running out. I don't know how much we're going to do today. Maybe there's going to be a part 2 for this. Yeah. We'll see, because time is flying and it's 45 minutes almost in. It's extremely hot still, so I might not be able to finish all of it. So there's going to be a part 2 after a few weeks. So page speed and mobile friendly. So weirdly enough, this is a controversial topic. And page speed, so in reality, it's in B tier, right? In reality, it affects some other stuff. It's not a ranking factor. And ever since core web vitals were introduced, Google just wanted to make sure that we understand that web load, both for users and for crawlers and for all the internet and for climate change and for everything, it's important that we use as little energy as we can. So optimize everything as much as we can, everything loading as fast as it can, because it's as small as it can be, that when you load, when your page is being loaded by thousands of users, every megabyte is, emissions to the atmosphere, because more electricity servers, a lot of other things are needed. So it's a mandatory concept to understand, but as a ranking factor, it actually isn't. It might be a signal that, it is a signal that affects other stuff, but it's not that Google tests your site and says, oh, this is slow, we're not going to rank it, show it to anybody. No, because then biggest sites that actually rank the most would be doomed, because you cannot have big, huge sites that, are extremely clean in their code and everything. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's ads running. There's 17 trackers inside, and there's so much stuff, because running a big site is not the same as running a small one. And it's always going to be slower, which would mean that smaller sites will always rank because they have less technical overhead, which is not the case. So page speed is not SEO in the first place. It's UI, UX. It's good development practices. It's a lot of other things. It's just, great technological foundations. It shows how good the team is at many things, but it isn't an actual high level, it isn't an actual insanely valuable thing to focus on when it comes to SEO. You have to make sure that your site doesn't load annoyingly long, because click-through rates will be lower if your site is faster. Sorry, click-through rates will be better because your site is faster, which basically means that, if users don't bounce just because they got fed up of waiting for it, then yeah, well done. So this is something we have to focus on, but it's not necessarily the main focus. And if the site is a little bit slower, but it gets some extra functionality, or you could get a tracking script, or you do anything else with it, so be it. It's all good. Don't stress over it. I know clients love the green circle. They really love that, something they can measure, but also at the same time, it fits in the bigger picture as a very small detail signal that it's just not You can have a slow site, and I have clients, many of them, that would have a slow site that focus on a lot of other things, and just because they would move fast, they would be outranking a lot of sites. And it's normal. They can be slow as hell and can be even in the red and still rank well, just because nobody else do other things better than them. Frankly, in Webflow, it's quite easy to have good results, but sometimes you start adding custom scripts. You need something, software functionality, need different things, and it just slows down, and it's normal. It's all good. Do as fast as you can, but it's not SEO. So let's do it like that. It's UI UX. As in for mobile friendly, it's kind of the same. It's just now, just like the fast site is a thing, I will add it here in important, just because it's now mandatory. Like for certain products, less than others, because maybe your product itself is a web app and it doesn't work on the phone. So maybe it's just less important, but at the same time, of course, get it mobile friendly. Half of the traffic happens on the mobiles or even more. It's normal to just have both versions very okay, very ready, very responsive. So responsive design, of course, mandatory. It's more important than page speed, but at the same time, not the most important thing. And when I say not the most important thing, it has to be there, has to work on the phone, has to work well, but sometimes you just delete components or do things like that, or just remove the whole section that doesn't show up on the phone. It's all good. If it's the way it needs to be, it needs to be like that. It's all good. All right, so we're still kind of on a topic of content a little bit. And let's talk about outbound links. Basically means links that you link on your page to other websites, other different domains, not your own domain, not internal, but links that you link to outboundly, outgoing links. So they are important, because whenever you make a claim, if you link to a reputable source, it just kind of gives understanding to the crawler and even to the user. Honestly, Wikipedia does this the best, right? They're always linked to sources, they link to things, because that's why we trust them, to the extent that we trust them. So same here, if your page does the same, even if you link to competitors, which we will come to eventually, also the competitors. So yeah, let me take a sip and we'll continue. It's insanely hot. It's just too hot for me during these days, but it is what it is. So outbound links, yes, link to reputable sources. Usually it's not necessarily you link to the article that wrote the same thing. It actually would be quite irresponsible for you to do that, because it's just probably going to help them rank better and not necessarily you. But at the same time, you rank to some related stuff, related materials. You link to whatever you need to link to prove your point if somebody wants to go deeper, and that's mandatory. So, all right. So relevancy of outbound links. I found this in my experiences very important. The more better, because good quality content includes good quality sources. That's that simple. And if it's just that simple, it usually gets quite a lot of value. And I tried this on different types of things, and I've been doing that for years, and it just seems like the way to go. Never be greedy about, oh, but I'm giving them a backlink for free or something like that. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you here in this moment on this page are helping both the users and crawlers and everybody to show that topical authority that you have. Hey, we know that these guys wrote about this, and here you go. If you want to check it out, learn more about it, or especially if you make any claims, or that's why some link building strategies like having data that people link to work very well, because they're quite passive. They're expensive to make, but at the same time, then passively people start linking because it's trustworthy source with a lot of data. Like with everything, every SEO strategy eventually can start skewing. This one is showing the same results, but still, it's a thing. Outbound link count. Here, I would put it a little bit lower, because it's more about how important it is to share that information. rather than, how much I have to put. Do I have to put 10? Do I have to put 20? No, it's more about how much you need to, that much you put. That's quite that simple. So yeah, so we have that balanced links. Link count is less important than the quality and relevancy of them, whatever you need to, especially when you're making specific claims, and especially in certain industries. All right. I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking we're no way gonna finish this today because we did like roughly a half. So I was thinking to end today's stream a little bit early, and we're gonna have a part 2. So there will be a part 2 where we're gonna finish doing this, and there's a lot of other stuff to talk about. Yeah, I think for Webflow community this will be helpful. So today we kind of ran through some basic elements of development and ranking factors behind them, SEO and things like that. And we kind of started putting them into tiers. And I've just decided last few minutes, we're going to just run through all that over again, kind of summarize it into one thing. All right, so let's jump into the most important stuff, which is in S tier, things that we established. And by the way, there's going to be more, but what we did in part 1 was, let me start putting things a little bit into groups like this. So we have some sort of, all right, so what we see, what is most important out of the things that we spoke about today is that your website has to have authority in it, and it needs to be trusted by both users, the internet. Because think about it, backlinks help you rank, and backlinks is just a trust signal. And you wouldn't link to shady websites or poor quality content, or you wouldn't share things with your friends that you think are bad. So that's where topical authority and topic depth on the same page, which by the way, topic depth is kind of the same thing when on multiple pages, we just call it topical authority, which kind of when put together well, when one page starts ranking on top results, others also start rising because of that, because you mentioned internal links and things like that. So you just have to understand that you're building a system of not only high quality content, but at the same time, like helpful pages, as many helpful pages as you can, as many helpful pages as there can exist in the thing that you're trying to achieve, be it your business, your blog, your software, whatever it would be. Like you have to have a page for every specific problem that you can solve. You don't need to do that too much, but at the same time, when I say not to subdivide things that can be on one page, but that's the hard part about knowing what it is and what isn't that. When the search intent is directly the same, when you can rank with something, and usually checking the results is like that. And then we have using credible sources, so showing that authority by just using, linking to stuff that makes sense to link here. And of course, using the correct terms in your headings and using the correct terms in your, and using the correct mediums of the content you're producing, be it video, images, or web tool that you have to make, or I don't know, anything else. Maybe sometimes it's just software that you have to download, and that's the only way to rank. And otherwise, Google would spot a weird behavior because they would say, okay, so all other competitors, they download software and they probably are pleased with that. But with yours, they just bounce back, go to the page, find something else, and they're just going to stop dropping in rankings. Now in A tier, things that are also very important, mobile design is important. Do mobile design as good as you can. It's not the most important to get it right, but it has to be completely usable. That's why it's A tier. It has to be usable. It has to be good. It has to work on the phones. It has to be not annoying, and it has to be clearly there. It's 2023. We should not be talking about this that much. And a few other things. Let me start putting things into some sort of groups as well. Okay, so content updates, yes, again, important. If something changed in the industry, if there's news, if there's a new release of something, always have to update it. as fast as possible, do as accurate as you can. This doesn't mean just open things up, change a few words, do this. No, actually, like, be helpful, and that's usually a good strategy. Like, we done it with a few things. That's why I create content that we publish on our client sides, and the way we plan in different tiers that we have, different levels, different qualities, and sometimes we publish quite a lot in lower quality, and then just a few in higher, and then we change those pages that were lower quality to go up, and that's normal behavior, because that's how, when you think about it, like, if a team would work on a site every day would do something, that's how they would do. Like, there would be maybe 3 weeks or months even, I don't know, whatever, of the website, which is barely there. It's being developed. There's no content on it. And then maybe there's some edit, and it's normal behavior for sites to be flexible and changing. So you have to watch out for that. Just as a thing, like table content, maybe we're going to move it here. Honestly, when I'm talking about these things, I started to realize we're just going to move it to B tier. It's important, but not maybe that important. Outbound link count. Now I'm thinking maybe it's also here. Okay, but let's leave it there. The count of the links matches. Like, if everybody links to a lot of credible sources on the search results you want to show up on, and you don't, then the count maybe matter. But it's not like, hey, 10, hey, 7, hey, you must. It can be, it's just a part of other stuff. Actually, it makes me think it's here. I'm going to put it here. Headings and other page structure elements and things like that, and readability flows, and also important part of the good content. Word count, again, only matches per case. It's quite important. You cannot say, hey, everybody has a 2,000 word page, and I just gonna do 200 words, we're gonna rank for it. No, that's not gonna happen. But that doesn't mean that with 1,400 words you can easily outrank them. It can. You can. And there are ways, and it's a lot of things, are not equal. So, but it's important, but not the most important thing you should focus on. You just have to be aware that this thing is quite something I have to check. And then for stuff that are just signals, page speed is one of them. There's no real way to test page speed rather than just doing it yourself on your own browser, or watching somebody over the shoulder how to use your website. That's pretty much it. PHP tools that we have are just, laboratory tools. It kind of gives us examples of rough estimates what we can expect, but there's a lot of things. Every user has a different connection and different device, and even different browser, which can result in different how your page looks, in different ways. So a lot of things like that. And then we're gonna just finish it off. All the stuff that we put in the signals are, so we just moved 2 things here, as in table of contents and link count, that I before put it more up, but now we're gonna lower it. Things like conceptually mentioning what you're talking about, using direct language, using words in a way that somebody who maybe don't know anything about the topic would understand, and explaining some details that might be obvious to you, especially if you're an expert in your industry, but maybe not be obvious for every user. So understanding what kind of terminologies you can and can't use or must use. Things like adding keywords, understanding how they work. They become less and less relevant when Google is now thinking about your whole semantic website as opposed to just one page. So it's just parts of good content. All these things here are very big parts of good content, but they're not very big on their own, even though they're important. Things like barely matters, duplicate content. Google will pull, will take a canonical, add it, try their own behavior, and still rank the page. Unless you're being spammy about it. So all this is assuming that you're not trying to do anything shady. You're just trying to deliver the best value for your user, for your visitor, for the search results, for the crawler, for everybody. You're not trying to find this cheeky way of scamming people, because if you are, then this table looks completely different, and then there's like black hat tactics to do a lot of things. But if you're doing a good job, maybe you need the same page for another marketing campaign to track stuff. It's possible to do a lot of things, add no index, add a canonical to those pages, remove from sitemap, it's all good. Domain age is a thing that you can achieve results faster, but not necessarily in the long run it adds anything. If you do all this stuff in A, B, and S tier, better, then the domain age will not matter eventually. Yeah, and subdomain keywords, while you should avoid using them, it's not that important. I would say it doesn't matter. Exact match domain doesn't matter. Keywords within your domain doesn't matter. None of this matters. And that's another Thursday, another Webflow SEO stream for you guys. So we're going to have a part 2. That's for sure. There's going to be a part 2. We're going to be talking more about this. I don't know in how many weeks, maybe the week, not next week, a week after that. Maybe we're going to do it later, but I just prepared way too much and it's impossible to do in an hour, and my voice otherwise we're going to disappear. So I'm just going to keep it at that. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for those who were here. Thanks for those who are watching this later. This was Search Historian from Content Nest, and we're done for today. See you next Thursday, and check for updates on Twitter on who's the guest and what we're going to be talking about it. They're going to be released quite soon. All right, bye guys. See everybody. Bye.